difficulty following through with, oh my god, following through with my drawing interpretation. So we're not going to do that. And I want to talk about the discomfort instead of forcing. So I came to this cabin with a very specific schedule, and I brought my drawing. It was finished, and I couldn't bring myself to follow through with the video because I didn't like the drawing. So I started painting over it, desperate. This has to be perfect. This has to look good. Which was already going against my artist statement, which is, I'm not here to create a perfect image, a perfect picture, painting. I'm here to communicate messages from my subconscious and from my wildness and messages from beyond. So I was already going against that, and I want to talk about the sneakiness of the bad program that's inside of us, especially in the West. So we're just gonna dive in. So as I was painting to fix the drawing so I could do an interpretation video about it, there was discomfort. And I think a lot of creatives run into this problem where they are creating for an audience, but when you have been so well trained to need external validation, I want to get this view in the background. The great outdoors. When you're trained, let me back up. The issue seems to be one of limited imagination and limited creativity. When we are young, we are very in touch with our soul, with the earth. We talk to ourselves, we commune with the soul. Like, I was constantly singing to myself, constantly painting. I had so many imaginary friends, all fairies. And I was so in love with life. And so a lot of us are in that situation, and then we go to school, which I'm grateful for my education. I'm able to communicate, I'm able to be a part of this community. However, I think we should still investigate something. Even though it has so many good things, it's good to look in the crevices and see all there is to see. And sniff around. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm tired of trying to outrun that foggy shame, that fatigue, that need for approval. I will not live my life that way. And so I want to talk about it so that maybe others might feel seen and then start the conversation. So let's back up. So we're in daydream land and we go to school and we sit in a classroom for 8 hours. And a way to cope with that is to daydream. And so we are daydreaming and we're creating all these magical stories, and all of a sudden we hear, pay attention. And my sister gave me a great image for this. It's like, picture like a young, free, wild little lady, and all of a sudden this hand comes out of nowhere and yanks that little lady away. This is why we fear the unknown. In that process, I call this the initiation. It starts pretty early, around 10, 11, definitely earlier for some people if they have to be a caretaker. The act of pulling a kid away from that daydreaming is the beginning of the end of free, uncontrolled imagination and the start of soldier training. So we know that like a school is there to educate and then also create little workers. Like when I was younger, we hear, what are you going to be? There's a sense of urgency. We need doctors, we need lawyers, we need artists, we need businessmen, but you need to start thinking about what are you going to be? And again, this initiation is important for this story to start the kid on its quest to freedom and all of that good stuff. So the hand coming out of nowhere is important. It makes for a good story. But if we're not careful, we start to live in fear of that hand coming out of nowhere to tell us to sit straight. And when we're told to pay attention, we tense our muscles and we strain our eyes and we try really hard to focus on what they're saying. And before I forget, I do want to talk about the superpower that is imagination, because that word is really tossed around lightly. Just imagination, yeah, great, whatever, it's important. No, it's actually an actual power. It has magic-like abilities. We know this through the placebo effect. You are capable of healing your body through thinking alone, through imagination. So that alone is amazing. And so when you go to school, you're not taught the importance of imagination, and it is, you pledge allegiance to the flag, and it's very soldier-like, and you get in lines, and you memorize things, and it's kind of like the Fire Nation from Avatar, The Last Airbender. You start living for other people, and you start losing that communication with the inner guidance, and you start looking outside for answers because, okay, the caretakers are telling me how I should be. They're bigger. I should listen to them. They have more knowledge, and it's not the teacher's fault. They weren't taught about the importance of imagination. The other part that they're not taught is how to teach how to release energy. So what we know from ancient Eastern practices that it is now being studied and proven from modern scientists is that we release energy up and out through the head. We release it all throughout the body, but the main focal points of release and receiving is through the head, through the crown chakra. So what happens is we're told to pay attention, and so we tense, we try really hard, and we start to store all of this tension inside. And especially if you are highly sensitive or like an empath, which is a superpower, by the way, you are bombarded by everybody's energy, kids' parents' energy from home, the teacher's energy. All of it is coming at you, and you're trying to focus really hard at something that is not as exciting as your daydream. And so it's, for 8 hours a day, it becomes unbearable, right? And many highly sensitive kids are misdiagnosed as having ADHD, but that's a whole different topic. And I'll get back to my point, I promise. So we're not taught how to release energy, and how you release energy, that trapped, stored, painful, suppressed stuff, is up and out through the head. So it's quite simple. You don't need to know the science. You don't need to know anything. And I know this because I don't really know the science, and it still works for me. So when you're activated, for example, today, when I didn't like my drawing, I was feeling bad about creating, and I had all these negative voices. In that moment, all of that stored stuff from childhood is trying to get out. It was, by the act of creation alone, it was shaken loose, and now it's trying to go. But what happens when we don't know to release is we start to loop on stories, images, fantasies, things that could happen, or ruminating on the past. Any painful story is matching that dense frequency that's trying to get up and out. And we loop and loop and loop on it, and all this pressure is building. And we're heating up inside. This is hell. I don't believe personally that heaven and hell is after. I think it's here and now. And I think hell is when you're trapped in all of this distortion and pressure, and you can't get it out, so you distract by looping on others' pain instead of taking responsibility for what you feel. Anything that will match the frequency of what's trying to get out, and then we spend all of our energy trying to push it back down, suppressing it. And of course, we're all going to be fatigued and numb and feel like a veil is in front of us, because we are overfilled with information, with how to be a good human. So, okay, hope you're still with me. I'm going all around. So it's just like going to the gym, but for your mind. It's like spiritual gym, energetic gym. You practice sitting with the discomfort, knowing it will inevitably pass, and not feeding the story, and allowing yourself to change your mind. Like, I started, because of this old program that's so soldier-like, that's in my mind, I felt like I had to push through. Just do the video. I don't care, like, if you're uncomfortable, just do it, you know? And part of retraining, reprogramming, is to say, okay, I hear you. This is uncomfortable, and I'm not gonna push myself like I was taught to. I'm going to allow myself to change momentum and trust it will pass, and I will return to homeostasis. I think a lot of us are so used to living in that survival, that numbness and that fatigue, that we have forgotten what homeostasis feels like. And because the unknown, which is really home, is scary because of the hand might come and get us, we keep looping and we keep thinking about the worst case scenario, because while it's uncomfortable, it's what we're used to. And so, yeah. So instead of forcing myself to do the video, I hopped in the stream and I decided to talk about it, hoping that it would resonate with some people and maybe validate. And just a reminder that we are living in a time bursting with creativity, and yet a lot of us are stuck in that meaninglessness, that fog, which will come upon you at any moment. It's like we're living on the caboose, and we're blindfolded, being whipped around instead of up in the engine room, seeing all there is to see. And so I want to just talk about it because many of us are not talking about it. I want to maybe explain the reason I got into this hermitage. I've been kind of a hermit. I'm living at home with my parents for about a year, and in the beginning I was getting a lot of shame from the tribe, from people saying like, what are you doing? Like, you should be out there, you should be talking with people. But then I started to observe the natural world, and I realized that the natural world is honoring cycles. We love to talk about the transformation of the caterpillar to butterfly. The caterpillar consumes, just like we do in the training, the initiation. The caterpillar is like, all right, I'm full, I've had enough. It makes itself a cocoon and gets in bed and rests and allows life to transform it, to give it wings. It's not sitting there thinking, how am I going to save up for my wings, or comparing itself to another caterpillar. It simply gets into the cocoon and allows life to transform it. And so I'm looking around and I'm not seeing many people getting into the cocoon. And so I just want to, I said this in the last video, I think, and I might say it in every video, but if you're feeling the pull to be a little hermit, to get into the cocoon, you are backed by billions of years of evolution, We're not meant to be doing 24/7 in survival. Our natural state of being is homeostasis, is bliss and calm. And then we have those moments where the prey is outrunning the predator. That's survival, and then it returns. And we're not returning to homeostasis. So, if you're feeling the need to be a little hermit, to ask yourself, what do I want? To get quiet, to reconnect with the soul, commune with the soul, reconnect with nature, it is completely safe to do it. And do it despite the shame from the tribe, despite the whole world screaming bad advice at you. So I think that's all I wanted to say today. I hope you're able to rest and create in your own time, in your own way, and keep going. Cheers. Good luck. Don't forget to frolic, find a stream, take a break.